On the agenda tonight, we're going back to earlier this year to take a look at John Farnham, and he's going to be performing You're the Voice, featuring Brian May, Olivia Newton John, and many more. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, on my request list, it was just asked that I looked at a John Farnham performance, and as there was no link to a video, I thought I'd get one bang up to date, and also it's for a great cause, the Firefight Australia concert, which you can still donate to, you can still buy the album, but let's get everybody up on screen and see how they got on.
This is Mitch Tambo, folks.
I'm just going to jump in here. As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can check it out. It is actually from the official Queen channel on YouTube, so you can check out this video, but then countless others as well, and just fall down that rabbit hole of Queen videos. But getting into this performance and specifically looking at John, because to give you a reference point, he's 70 years of age during this performance, and this is in exactly the same key as it was when it's first released. And to hit these notes with this conviction, this consistency, and this control is amazing. It is so great to listen to John singing these notes, and it's like his vocal cords are timeless, totally unaffected. To put it in perspective as well, we've got high C's coming out here, the C5. I always mention it as the Holy Grail in that male tenor range. So we've got crazy notes going on here, but also the consistency of the A4s in there as well, and the G4s, and all of the other notes that are going on throughout this whole melody vocally. And the other thing about it is the range that we cover. And the reason that it is so impressive, just from a technical standpoint for any singer, is because we're linking together so many different notes that would sit in different registers, and it's getting them all to come out as one long phrase without hearing any vocal breaks. Interestingly, when this song was first released in 1987, it was a massive hit everywhere, pretty much, apart from the USA. And it took a little bit more time. It was re-released in 1990 and then got to number 82 in the US charts. It wasn't until the next year, in 1991, when Heart released their own live version of it, and then it got to number 20 in the US charts. So they got it to its highest position in the US charts. But this song, sung in the same key here as it was originally, in F. And this is the other thing, that it would be so easy just to take this down half a step to E, but they keep this all the same. I can also imagine that these songwriters got together and wrote this song, and then they would think to themselves, we've got the melody that we want to have in our heads, but realistically, who's ever going to be able to sing this? And then a record company would come along and say, well, this guy, John Farnham, because listen to his voice. So I've just busted out the guitar to show you the notes that John's covering with his voice. We'll also have a look at what Brian's doing rhythm-wise, and also I'll just show you the chords of the song and the chord voicings that we have in order to get a run down effect and a run up effect, but we'll get to that in a second. If you do listen out, you'll be able to hear Brian's guitar in the mix, and he is just supplying a lot of muted strumming here, so keeping everything moving along from that rhythmic perspective and percussive perspective as well. Just like that, so not actually fretting any notes with his left hand, even though you'll see that he is hovering above this 8th fret in order to put in a chord if he needs it. So getting into our chords, we're starting on the F that I've already mentioned in the verse. We then go down to an E flat, and then also we're having another shift down, and rather than changing to this B flat full bar chord, we're keeping all of that bar chord in there, but we're taking the first finger to the D. So it is like a B flat over D chord, and it might be a little bit confusing when I'm playing it here, but later on in the song we do get the solo section where it's a little bit clearer as to what's actually going on here musically. Also in the pre-chorus we've got a couple more chords going on. We've still got this B flat, but we have a little jump up to the C, like that. And the second time we make it all the way back to our F. So we've got this key change underneath the bagpipe solo, and we've got our B flat, our A flat, and now we've got our E flat, but with our C shape, and an E flat would sound like that in its A chord position. And I'm talking about the 6th fret here with your first finger. That's where you'll be fretting your normal chord shape. But when I'm saying about my C shape, if we look at a C chord down at the bottom of the guitar, and I try to play this leaving my first finger free, then it would start to look like that. And because I've got my first finger free, it means that I can shift that up the guitar neck and now play my chord Obviously the chord isn't a C anymore because the root note has moved, and the root note is now where my little finger is, and that's where the E flat comes in, because that's now our root note in exactly the same way. Then when we move it, the root note stays in the same place, but I'm playing a different version of the chord. This would be the A shape, which is just like that, moving it up, bringing the first finger over to supply the root note, and you get that. I don't want to make this too confusing, but you might ask, why not just play the chords straight where they are, rather than doing all of this gymnastics in order to get your fingers into a C shape to play an E flat? And the answer is to give a descending run of root notes. So it means that when we've gone from our B flat to our A flat, now if I was just to play a standard E flat, it sounds like we've gone up, but sometimes you want to continue that. You want to make the chord sound like you're still going down and then working your way back up. The most important thing here is that when we get into this C shape, we're playing the low E string as well. So this chord position, the first note you're hearing is a G. So it's like an E flat over a G, which means that the root notes of the chords are going, that's our B flat, our A flat, down to our G, and that's where we have to now change position. And this is something that is essential to this composition, because it gives you that feeling of having a run down and coming back up to where you started. If it sounded like you went down twice and then went back up and then went down and back up again, it wouldn't give you the same journey, and it wouldn't work as well with the melody that's placed over the top. So covering the notes that John's hitting in the chorus, we're starting straight on an A4, which a lot of guys would strain to hit in the first place. It is a high note for guys to be able to hit. And then we descend, and that's down to an F4 and a G4. And then we've got this huge jump up to our C5. And we also had an E flat in there. And again, that's an E flat 4 if you want to find it on your guitar or your keyboard. So having this range of notes, what you'll find sometimes is when guys get to the top of their range, they might be hitting a G4 or an A4, and they'll then flip into either their head voice or falsetto, and it'll get really breathy, and it's very difficult to bridge these parts of the voice so that you don't hear any kind of flip. And this is what John can do. He can take these notes all the way from a C5 all the way down to that E flat 4 with no vocal break, and it is so smooth. Just while I'm explaining these notes that John's hitting, I want to show you guys the pre-chorus, because John hits an A4 and it is such a dramatic jump in the melody that it sounds like the highest note that we're going to hear, but then when we get to the chorus, that peak that we thought we'd already hit then gets even higher because we then hit a C5 in the chorus. But this is what I'm talking about. It was just that line. I've put away the guitar because I think we'd be here all night if I kept on playing through this song, because it is one of those songs that's right up my street taste-wise. Also, another thing I want to point out about that A4 that John just hit is the vowel modification, because when he goes, how long, he's saying long as long. So if I was to try and sing it and go, how long, and say long with the same pronunciation, the same vowel consistency that you have when you just speak normally, it sounds weird. It starts to sound dark and covered and classical. Whereas for this kind of song, you don't want to go to that place. So John has changed the sound of that vowel in order to keep it consistent tone-wise, and also to make it a little bit easier to get up into that range, because the smaller you make the sound and the less wide you make the vowels, the easier generally it is to increase the notes in your range and hit those higher notes. But let's get back into the performance and we'll watch it all the way to the end. And there we have it. Something that I want to mention about Brian May and the way that he's playing guitar in this, I said about the rhythm that he's putting in, and it is all minimal. He's throwing in a few chords as well, just a few unison bends, and it would be so easy for any lead guitarist in this setting to overdo it, and that's something that Brian May never does. He always plays something that embellishes and adds to a composition and doesn't take the limelight. And it's the most important thing about being part of a band is being in a band and everyone playing their part and having that respect musically for each other. And Brian May is one of those top players. Even if you don't know anything about singing or pitch or ranges or notes, you can use Olivia Newton John as a bit of a guide, because when she comes on stage, she's hitting exactly the same notes that John's been hitting and Mitch has been hitting throughout the performance, and she's got that female range and a female voice. As everyone will know, females generally, more often than not, have higher voices than guys. So it means that when they're singing, they can access these notes easily, but John is pushing his voice up into that range where a female would be singing. So even from that perspective, it gives you a little bit of an appreciation of what John and Mitch are doing in this performance. But a fantastic performance here all round, and John has lost nothing of what he used to have back in the 80s. All in the same key as well, so impressive from a vocal standpoint, but just a great performance here for such a great cause as well, with the firefighters on stage there, and especially nowadays in these times. I mentioned this was earlier in the year, but everything that we're going through at the moment with coronavirus, it really does put the spotlight and make you appreciate and realize the job that so many people in the public services do. So this is another cause that you can donate to and go to the website. I'm going to put that in the description below as well, the link to the website, so you guys can go there if you want to. But thank you guys for suggesting John to take a look at, and this song is right up my street as well. So any excuse to check out You're the Voice. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!